There's a point in your sim racing career where you try to go as fast as you can, but you don't know exactly what is the next step and why you're still many seconds behind the fast drivers. This is what we call a plateau, where you just get stuck in your technique development, and this student has found one. In this coaching session, we'll uncover what was missing in his driving and what are his next steps that eventually made him find over a second per lap, which moves him up from top 20 into the top 5% drivers in the world. What's difficult in this kind of change is that you change one little thing, but everything else is affected. So make sure you watch this video until the end to understand what other things he had to change to adapt to his new driving style. Now, can you tell what he's doing wrong just by watching these few corners? What do you think happened?
Well, I overflowed. Yeah, no, I don't know what happened there.
So there's a kink and then an actual corner, right? It's kind of like a turning while braking situation. On the first one, I think you overslowed a little bit, but then on the second one, because you felt you were overslowing, you braked less and then you oversped the next one. I would probably call it a little bit of hesitation under braking before the second one. You just didn't brake hard enough after. If you feel that you're faster, brake harder as quickly as possible. If you figure something is wrong, but you don't add more brakes, then this happens. Like you become a passenger, you're not super actively correcting it. That's great opportunity to always try to describe as much as possible what happened. If you don't know what happened, then it's very difficult to prevent it. Yeah, exactly.
Rotate enough.
Why do you think it spun here?
It fell off and I had not enough weight on the rear, so the rear went around.
Yes. How aware are you of the engine braking playing a role in the rotation of the car when you get into the corner?
I'm not thinking about it as much as I should.
In iracing, there is a very specific way to do it. Actually, it also kind of works in real life, just not doesn't scream as much in real life. In real life, you have generally cars that don't like too much engine braking. It really depends on the car. It depends on the setup as well. Here, it plays a big role. It starts working even before the actual corner starts. When you start braking, your rate of downshifting on a straight line before you're even starting to turn is already going to affect the balance into the corner. That has to do with the dynamic brake bias. As soon as you start braking, you want to downshift more quickly to get the car to stop a little bit more, stress a little bit more the rear tires without abusing the ABS in the front. So you get that dynamic brake bias down to the rear, and then the car will want to turn a little bit more as well. Generally, when you're losing the car, it's mid-corner because you understeered a little bit or turned in a little bit late or carried too much speed, and then mid-corner you downshift and you ask for a lot of rotation in a small area. So the problem is not asking for rotation. The problem is asking for too much rotation in a small point. If you downshift earlier, you're gonna get a car that wants to rotate more, but at the same time, you're gonna be able to control that rotation. You're gonna be able to spread that rotation throughout the entry of the corner. So you're gonna get a car that's more oversteery, but it's gonna spin less. And if you don't downshift, then you get a car that's more understeery, but then it spins because you get way too much rotation with that downshift mid-corner. So I prefer to do the downshift earlier to get that RPM up, to get the engine braking working, so that you already know more or less what's gonna be the balance of the car as you turn into the corner, instead of having a car that with low engine braking on turn in does not want to turn, and then you downshift and it kicks a lot of rotation very fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So I want you to try nothing but just downshifting earlier everywhere, even in a straight line. Even when you're starting to brake, I already want you to get that downshift going. The car is gonna want to turn more. It's gonna require that you be more careful with the steering. But after you get used to that extra willingness to rotate, you're gonna become a safer driver. Try that. Aggressive downshifting. Okay, that was a little bit too much speed. Downshifting was good. Make sure you carry exactly the same speed you were before. See, that's too slow downshifting there. I would go to first before I turn in or at the turning point.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, boom, boom. And then you do the turn in with the engine screaming at you. Yes, yes. That's the idea. Still a little bit too fast. You're gonna adjust the speeds after. But can you see how the car points for you almost?
Yeah. Yep.
So why is that? Because you're adding stress to the rear tires and it's resisting less rotation. So you get the car to turn more with less steering, which is very good for your front tires. And because you're using less of the fronts at the very first fractions of a second as you turn in, you're conserving the surface temperature. And then mid-corner, when you add more steering, the fronts are alive. The fronts have the grip for you. The car turns more mid-corner and you get a better exit. So initial turn in, the engine braking rotates the car for you. Just a little bit of steering. Mid-corner, more steering. Then the steering becomes the main source of rotation mid-corner.
Mid-corner. Yep. Okay.
Yes. Look at that. Look at how it turns beautifully.
Yep. Yeah,
Easy.
and I used the wheel more. You're right.
Too late, downshift.
Yep.
Make it
late.
scream. Like try to literally blow up the engine. Yep. Can I show you something real quick? Heard it? Boom, 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 boom. That's a lot earlier than what you're doing. You're letting the RPM go down too much before you do the first downshift. See, that's perfect. That's the best example. So, 1, 2, 3. The third downshift is the gear that I'm gonna use throughout the entire corner, entry and exit. My first turn in is at the same time I do the last downshift. Remember the pie of the distribution of the tools of rotation, what is causing the biggest rotation proportionally. We have the braking, the engine braking, and the steering. Here, right now, I'm barely turning, but I'm using a lot of braking and a lot of engine braking. So what's making the car turn, it's that tiny bit of steering plus a lot of engine braking, plus a lot of trail braking. As soon as you start braking, when you reach peak pressure, that's already your first downshift. Try that here. Yep. That's it. That's it. There you go.
All right. I'll think about
The
it.
second downshift was still a little bit too late. The more you downshift before entry, the more grip you have mid-corner, which feels very weird and wrong, right? What does one thing have to do with the other? But it's directly related. Still too late. You can downshift more quickly. Abuse it, test it. Do like a stupid early downshift. Yeah. There you go. There you go. 2/10.
Yep. Excellent.
The car stops more if you downshift. So you can probably brake a little bit later everywhere.
Use a little less brake.
No, just brake a little later so you gain speed. So you gain time on entry.
Yep.
There you go. Don't worry about the lap times. What really matters right now is that you feel the difference of the balance of the car as you downshift earlier. You have to change everything to adapt to the new thing. So your steering has to be different. Your braking references have to be different. Your line is going to be slightly different. Your throttle application is going to be different because the car with that difference in surface temperature becomes more oversteering on exit, so you have to also adjust that. Everything else is different. It takes like hundreds of laps for you to adapt a new technique like that. There you go. You gotta like get a little bit more rotation there. You're always running wide on the exit. And try to extract that tiny bit more rotation mid-corner. Bite the apex.
Yep.
There you go. Beautiful. Yeah, a little bit too fast on entry.
Yep.
The only danger with the engine braking being like that is that you do get a lot of rotation. So if you go too fast, you're gonna lose the car. All these things apply to real life. It's just that in real life, it's more difficult to try using more engine braking in some cars, especially if you do like a manual car. It's a lot more tricky to do it. But all these effects apply one-to-one in real life.
Yeah, there's more control there.
The most counterintuitive thing is that when you get a car that's more oversteery, you actually become more consistent. Because you never get the snaps, because it's always oversteering anyways, right? If it's understeering and then you force, it snaps and you spin. But if you oversteer all the time, then you're consistently on top of that edge and you are in control for longer. Yeah, here. Downshifted too late.
Still, that's still ahead of what I was doing.
Because like, it was really not in your muscle memory. So right now, as soon as you start thinking, oh, what's for dinner? Like you go back to the habits of downshifting late. There you go. Now what I want you to specifically feel on these next laps is that the engine braking is causing the car to rotate and you're using that without abusing the steering. I want you to feel as if something is kicking the rear for you. Kicking is the wrong word. It's not kicking, it's pushing. Very slowly. Because kicking is like a spike, right? But it's not. It's the engine braking. If you downshift before you start turning, it's a consistent source of rotation that keeps rotating the car. It's an ongoing rotation tendency that's super manageable if you're on the right speed. Look at that. See, like, careful not to correct it too early too. Like, you got a little bit of good rotation there, but you counter-steered.
Yep.
And then you lost the rotation. You didn't make use of it. Like, try to oversteer on entry. Feel that oversteer coming from the engine braking and maintain it with a little bit of steering. Focus on the feeling, nothing else.
Way overslowed.
Yeah, if you overslow, you can't feel it. Like, this is the kind of exercise that requires you to be either at the limit or a little bit over.
Yep.
If you're under, then nothing happens.
Oh wow, that worked.
Yep.
Okay, I'll brake a little later.
You could steer more. You were under the limit.
Yep.
The engine braking only works if you're steering enough to put the car on that neutral steer. If you're not turning, then the engine braking has nothing to amplify. That's it. I want you to be able to do that 1,000 times without spinning. And then you're going to find the perfect spot where you do a tiny bit of that micro oversteering without spinning, without scrubbing, and being as fast as possible. That's how it should feel every corner entry. Like here, you're not feeling it. It's not oversteering. It's not oversteering. It's not oversteering. It's not oversteering. It's not oversteering.
Yep.
So you see, like it only works perfectly when you're like always neutral, always floating, as if you're about to lose it, but not losing it. That is only possible to practice if you carry a little bit too much speed, tiny bit. Beautiful, like that. Like it was a little bit too fast, but that's the idea. At least you can feel that. That's why I say like on the sim we have to try the most stupid things, drive in a way that we wouldn't really in real life, so that we can feel these things and make better use of the sim time. And then when you go to real life, because there's so much more adrenaline, so much more reality, you can feel these things at a more subtle level.
Too late.
Oh, good.
At least I'm aware of it.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be in your head for like a week or two, man. You can do 100 laps, you're gonna be like, oh, thinking about these things, and this is difficult to change. The good thing is that knowing how to abuse the engine braking, exploit the engine braking like that, allows you to choose whether you do it or not. So in real life, you might choose to not do it. You might choose to downshift late, or you might choose to downshift it like a little bit more quickly, and you have the full spectrum, the whole range of speeds to work with. You can choose. It becomes one more factor for you to perfect your driving.
Well, there are times when it feels perfect, like you said, floaty going in, and I wasn't sure what I did differently, and it might have been shifting, at those times. So I'll think about that more now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because that's literally a third of the sources of rotation that you can have. So you were not aware of 33% of the important tools of rotation for the car.
I actually thought I had to shift later to get more rotation later. I wasn't thinking about using it so early.
Yeah, because I think in your head, the downshifting itself caused the rotation.
Yeah.
But it's not the downshifting that causes the rotation, only it's the RPM. So if you downshift early, you get more RPM.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt it really kick out there.
Yeah, exactly. The best technique that comes with it, so you can really master this, is the exponential steering. So go back to my course, watch everything that is about exponential steering, and it's gonna make so much more sense now. Watching the exponential steering lesson without having felt the importance of the high RPM as a source of rotation, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you make an exponential steering? As soon as you realize, oh, it's because if I turn just 1 degree, the engine braking already makes the car rotate. So I do that transition at a disproportionate rate. So as the engine braking goes down, I can actually rotate the steering a lot more.
Yeah, and I think most of my driving is real world, not sim, and with a standard, right? A 6-speed standard transmission. So it's a little safer to wait a little later, right? To heel and toe.
Can I show you something?
Yeah.
This is Ayrton Senna in a manual Formula 1 car, and listen to how he uses the downshift. How crazy is this? As soon as he starts braking, the engine, it's like he's downshifting, heel and towing super early, using the engine braking to turn the car initially. And he barely uses his steering because of that. Because there's so much engine braking, there's so much rotation, he doesn't need to turn the steering as much. All his downshifts, the last downshift is at the turning point. This is fucking amazing. This is just beautiful. Oh my god, this lap makes me cry, man. It's so beautiful. And you see it. The guy's doing that in the 90s with no protection and turning in with one hand as he does a downshift. I legit feel like crying watching this lap. I'm not joking. It's so beautiful. Oh my god. Okay. That's your homework. Use the engine braking, feel the engine braking, master the engine braking. It's all about adding that tool for rotation in your driving vocabulary.
Yeah, and I remember the 3 percentages in your course, but I just didn't internalize how powerful engine braking was early in the corner. Like, that's where it's more important.
Sim racing is growing more and more, and it's bringing real-life racers and sim racers together. This is making the competition level rise like I've never seen it before. So if you want to become that competitive, the secret is in the driving technique more than equipment. My professional driving technique course, the Motor Racing Checklist, already has over 3,000 drivers, including real-life drivers and professional esport drivers, just so you know how good it is. I made this course after coaching over 2,000 drivers in one-to-one live sessions, and it contains all the advanced concepts, techniques, and exercises that I've developed with my students over all these years of coaching. It's perfect for any simulator, racing games, and also for real-life drivers wanting to use a simulator to improve their real-life driving technique. This course is about car handling skills, and the goal is to make you find better lap times and consistency. You will learn how to prevent and induce specific behaviors and learn how to feel them earlier so you can predict what's happening with the car with professional precision. By the way, this course has a money-back guarantee with no questions asked. So if you don't improve, you get your money back. And you can join my Discord to read reviews and ask any questions. Join the course now, and I will see you on track.